Welcome to the Point Noted podcast with your host, Johnny B, and co-host who shows up whenever he wants to, former NFL player Rashad Barksdale. It's raw, unfiltered, and no topic is off limit. We talk sports, entertainment, culture, and a whole lot of random shit. Let's get to the point.
Point on the podcast. You're hanging out with your host, Johnny B, and my co-host for the day, OCO. OC, how are you?
Doing well.
All right, so we got a special guest today. We have Andreas Antonopoulos with us. Andreas, how are you?
I'm doing great, Johnny. How are you?
Not bad at all, man. Not bad. I'm excited that you're here today. I've been trying to get some answers to Bitcoin and blockchain and all of that. So hopefully I get some clarification as well as the audience listening. We can all be happy to get back into investing and just, being more well-informed about Bitcoin and blockchain.
You got it.
All right. So I'm going to start. So Bitcoin, what exactly is Bitcoin? Because we have a lot of people, I get this question all the time when I say, hey, you want to buy some Bitcoin? What is it? What is that? How can I use it? So what is Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is money of the internet for the internet and by the internet.
Okay.
It's a system of money that exists on the internet and only on the internet. There's no physical Bitcoin notes or coins. It's a system that operates entirely digitally, but most importantly, it's a system that is not controlled by any company, any corporation, any government. It's, in fact, it's a communication system, just like email itself is not controlled by one company, and the web itself is not controlled by any one company. And there can be lots of companies on the web or using email, but no one owns email itself. And similarly, Bitcoin is a communication system for transmitting and receiving money and for securing transfers of money that operates everywhere in the world where you can get a basic internet connection. Where you don't need to present any documents or get any authorization in order to participate. You just download some software, and you don't need to create an account. You don't need to identify yourself. And once you have the software, you can send and receive Bitcoin. And that's basically it. It's an economy for the internet.
Okay, so who should be buying Bitcoin? Can any Americans, any citizen, any human can just go ahead and just buy and own some Bitcoin?
Well, for one thing, I wouldn't start by buying. And I think a lot of people start by the idea that they're going to buy some Bitcoin. But if you're an American, you don't buy dollars, do you?
No.
How do you get your dollars?
Obviously through work.
Yeah, so you work for them. Well, you can work for Bitcoin, right? You can earn Bitcoin by making something and selling it, by offering a service, by, cutting someone's hair or mowing a lawn or driving a taxi or selling food or whatever it is that you do, designing websites, whatever skill. So think of Bitcoin rather as an internet economy that you participate in, and you earn some of your income by selling goods and services on the internet for Bitcoin. That's certainly how I look at it. And that means that if you use Bitcoin, you can buy and sell services anywhere in the world, and no one can stop you or interfere with your commerce. So if you're someone who designs websites and you live in, Bangladesh, it's actually really difficult to get paid by a customer in another country. And that's because the banking system is designed to only work within one country at a time. And if you try to cross borders, it gets very complicated. And most people can't navigate that. There's a few private companies like PayPal make it a bit easier, but even PayPal, they cover 19 countries out of 194.
Right.
Bitcoin covers all 194 countries and a lot of territories that have no countries on them.
Wow.
Let me ask you this. So the smallest elemental dollar would be a penny or a cent. What is the smallest divisible transactional form of Bitcoin? Because as of today, one Bitcoin is worth $9,330. If I'm the website designer and the website's I'm designing out of Bangladesh and the website's only $200. How do I get paid? Well, what does that look like?
So the smallest unit, that's a great question, by the way, because a lot of people misunderstand that. The smallest unit in Bitcoin is called a Satoshi, which is named after the pseudonym of the creator of Bitcoin, the inventor, if you like.
Hmm.
And one Bitcoin has 100 million Satoshi. So if you think about it, there's 8 zeros after the dot. So one Bitcoin is actually 1.00000000. And you can transact theoretically as small as one Satoshi, but because of network fees, transaction fees that are used to operate the network, you can easily send or receive $5 or $10 of Bitcoin at the time, and you can buy $5 or $10 of Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. It's a bit like how a gold bar is worth $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, depending on how heavy it is. But you can buy a speck of gold.
Right.
Well, the specs in Bitcoin are even smaller.
I
Okay.
got you. And was that 10 to the eighth power or?
That's 10 to, yes, it's 10 to the minus 8.
Okay.
Nice. So I see crypto vaults being breached all the time, right? Oftentimes with millions of dollars stolen. So how
Yes.
do I secure my cryptocurrency? I mean, how do one recoup that if it's stolen? I mean, we know bank and deposit have insurance, FDIC, in case
Yes.
something happened. Is there a similar avenue for cryptocurrency?
So the important thing to realize about Bitcoin is that you don't need a bank. You run software that keeps your Bitcoin on your own smartphone or your desktop, or even better, you get a special USB device called a hardware wallet that is super, super secure. Which, if you're going to be using it for more than a few $100 worth of money, you probably should get one of those. But if you're using it for under $1,000, you might just store it on software on your smartphone. If you control your own keys on your smartphone and you control your own Bitcoin, it's not that easy for someone to steal it from you.
Hmm.
If, on the other hand, you take that Bitcoin and you send it to a third party, either an exchange and you leave it on an exchange, or you give it to someone else and they put it in a wallet and they say, hey, Aussie, don't worry, I'm going to hold your Bitcoin real safe. You can trust me. Well, you can't. And, FDIC insurance doesn't exist in Bitcoin, but then again, FDIC insurance isn't what most people think it is. FDIC insurance is if one of the 5,000 banks, a little regional bank, goes down so that the depositors don't get harmed. If all of the banks are failing, then FDIC insurance doesn't even cover 0.1% of the deposits, and the biggest problem with putting money in the bank is that while it's difficult for anyone to rob you, the government and the bankers can rob you.
Right.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
most Americans think, okay, the bankers are not going to rob me, or at least they're only going to rob me once or twice a decade. 2008, 2020, they robbed me then. But
Right.
my government isn't robbing me every week. Well, that's nice to say, but there's 194 countries out there. And trust me, the people of Venezuela, Syria, Somalia, and dozens of other countries out there feel very differently about how far they should trust their own government and banks.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Andreas, it occurs to me that one of the biggest selling points for Bitcoin as a currency, it kind of presents this egalitarian layout where everybody can participate and should be kind of free and clear. I don't know, maybe I'm kind of simplifying that a little bit too much, but in this day and age where, on the mining side of things, it seems like the people making the most or uh, uh, making the most profit or participating more heavily or getting the most out of the system right now are people with a lot of money that can set up these giant mining operations. And in that way, what's your take on that? What's your take on mining in general, but your take on these mega setups, sometimes even backed by government parastatals? What's your take on that and how that's maybe throwing everything in imbalance a little bit?
Well, first of all, let me explain that mining is a mechanism by which the system is secured without giving control over the rules and over the system to the miners. With every other form of money, the organization or people that are providing security for the currency can also change the rules anytime they want, and they have a lot of power. The system of mining actually decentralizes that function. It means that lots of people can participate in mining, and they participate anonymously, and they don't actually have power to change the rules. So they still have to operate within the rules of the system. And in fact, we've seen a couple of times in Bitcoin where the miners have attempted to change the rules and failed miserably. In one case, losing $750 million in a matter of a few months in their attempt to hijack the system. So miners, yes, it's profitable to mine, but only if you put an enormous amount of money in, and also you take an enormous risk. Mining is not risk-free. In fact, it's an incredibly risky enterprise, and it requires enormous capital.
Yeah.
In return for providing that security and following the rules, the miners make a profit. But they don't get special rules to operate by. So in every sphere of human life, people who have money have greater opportunity in life. That is a truth of society. And Bitcoin doesn't change that. It doesn't change the fact that people who have a lot of capital can use that capital to their advantage, and they can make more capital. Their money works for them. But what it does change vis-a-vis all the other money systems is that in all the other money systems, people with lots of money don't only get to have that money work for them, but they also get to use that money to change the rules so that they get to play by a completely different set of rules, where not only do they gain, but the system makes sure that they can't ever lose. Think about the bailouts in 2008, or the way big business works. It's heads, I win; tails, you lose. Risky business went well, we make the profits. Risky business didn't make well, we get bailed out, we make the profits. So in Bitcoin, yes, of course, if you have money, your money works for you and you can make more money. But you don't get to change the rules just because you have money.
Right. So I don't get to lobby the Bitcoin Congress?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Bitcoin doesn't have a Congress, and it's a system of direct rule, where basically when you participate in the Bitcoin system, by choosing which software you run, you choose the rules, and that gives you some power. And it also makes sure that when you choose those rules, everybody else that you're participating with has to play by those same rules. It's a level playing field in that respect.
Gotcha. Hey, Johnny, one more question on this branch of thinking.
Absolutely.
Andreas, do you participate in mining at all? Is that part of your platform, or you just?
No, actually, and this surprises many people, I never got involved in mining. But primarily because it requires the kind of hardware and infrastructure which doesn't really suit my lifestyle. I'm a nomadic person. I travel a lot. I don't have a permanent base of operations. Mining equipment is heavy, noisy, and energy consuming. You have to, if I lived somewhere where I had cheap electricity and I had a barn, I'd probably fill it with Bitcoin mining equipment and do that. But not something I want to carry through an airport in my carry-on. So I never participated in that. In fact, the majority of the engagement I have with Bitcoin is as a job, right? So I work in the Bitcoin space. I produce books and videos and things like that, and
Right.
I get paid in Bitcoin for consulting, for book sales, for participating in conferences, and through donations from my community through Patreon and things like that, so that I can do this job. So that's how I earn my living, which is
Right.
basically the same way I earned my living before, only now it's in US instead of US dollars, it's in Bitcoin.
It's in Bitcoin.
Are you going to be totally insulted? Are you totally insulted when people try to pay you in in USD?
No, not at all. For one thing, it's important to recognize that not everyone has the technical knowledge to jump in, or even the infrastructure to jump in. And so I accept payments in dollars, but also in euro and yen and pound sterling and
Right.
Bitcoin and Ether. Just like any business person, I will accept a variety of different currencies as long as the accounting doesn't get too complicated.
Right.
And I do business internationally, so I'm used to operating in a variety of currencies. That's not a problem for me. In the past, however, I have given people a discount for paying me in cryptocurrency.
Okay.
And I call that discount the "Don't Make Me Call a Banker" 20% fee.
Makes
That's a good
sense.
one. That's a good
Because
one.
every time they tell me, "Oh no, we sent the wire transfer," I'm like, "Well, it's been a month. Where the hell is it?" And then we start the
Hmm.
dance with calling the banker and their customer service, and they never know. They never know where the money is, and they're not in any particular hurry to get it to you.
Right. 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 And I think from what I understand also, having the Bitcoin also, the government can't really track that or trace that. And we also know the government, is always itching to get involved in anything that's prosperous. So, and I
Well,
think I heard President
And
Trump saying
taxes
earlier,
too,
yeah,
huh?
I would caution against that because Bitcoin isn't anonymous. Lots of people think it is.
Okay.
And if you are operating in the U.S. and in many other countries, but especially in the U.S. as a U.S. citizen, just because it's Bitcoin doesn't mean that any of the rules change. You know, I file my taxes. In my
Right.
taxes, I report my income, whether it comes in Bitcoin, euro, dollars, or yen. I have to pay capital gains
Mm,
on my investments, and I have to report everything fully. I do get a lot of flexibility with my money because I can move it.
right.
Effectively, you don't move it because Bitcoin exists everywhere. So if I move to a
Everywhere.
different country, my Bitcoin's already there waiting for me when
Okay.
I arrive. I don't even
Right.
have to move it. So it's a more useful, versatile, international online currency.
Mm.
It's a more powerful form of money for me as both a business person as an individual. But you know, if you're going to tax evade, or if that's your goal, you can do that in dollars as much as in Bitcoin, and if you get caught, the punishment will be just as harsh.
But I mean, obviously, it has to be a lot, less harder to find if it's in Bitcoin and it's in dollars, right? I mean, for other fans listening out there that wants to hide their money,
John, are you
but
asking for somebody else or for yourself?
asking for a listener.
Yeah,
But no, really.
I don't
So
think I don't think it is, and I wouldn't encourage people to do that.
Absolutely.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
I think
absolutely,
you know, in fact, the degree of criminality and tax evasion that happens in U.S. dollars boggles the mind, and is
A
much
lot.
worse than anything you would ever see in Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
The only difference is the people who do it in Bitcoin are small time techie
Mm,
geeks, and the people who do
mm.
it in U.S. dollars are bankers
Yep.
and
right.
politicians.
A massive
Hmm.
conglomerate.
You know, if you
Absolutely.
get robbed in US dollars by someone wearing a suit with a very expensive lawyer.
Right,
Absolutely. Well,
right,
I see we're kind of ticking down, but I wanted to get into some of this. So Bloomberg has said they anticipate Bitcoin rising as much as $20,000 again, a la 2017. On the flip side, you have Goldman Sachs saying it's not an asset class, it's not a suitable investment.
right.
That the supposed scarcity of bitcoins being, up to 21 million, whatever the number is fiction, because you know when people run out of bitcoins, or when we mine all the bitcoins, well, people can just get more coins and trade in Ethereum or whatever other million forks there are of Bitcoin. To that, you say what? What side of the coin? Who has more reality on this side here, Bloomberg or Goldman Sachs?
So I would say that if you are in, let me give you an analogy.
Okay.
If you are in the birth of the automotive industry in 1910, and you've got these crazy people building cars with internal combustion engines, and the Horse Breeder Association of America says these things are dangerous, smelly, and they don't have four hoof independent traction like our horses. And the Horse Buggy Association of America says all of these companies should be forced to hire veterinarians because otherwise they're a menace to public health. And they should follow the same rules as us. Which of the two do you listen to? And the answer is really simple: neither. And you listen to neither because both of them are stuck in the past and trying desperately to make the old system look good, and the new system look bad. And that's been the history of innovation throughout history. You don't listen to GM to tell you about whether Teslas are nice electric cars or not. You don't listen to the cruise line industry to tell you if aviation is safe or not. And you don't listen to Goldman Sachs and Bloomberg to tell you what Bitcoin is, why it is, and what it will do in the future. If they understood it, they would have invented it themselves. They didn't. And for the most part, they massively underestimated, and I hope they continue to massively underestimate it. Bitcoin isn't about price. It doesn't matter if it's 10,000, 1,000, or 20,000. I use it on a daily basis. I've used it since it was $5 each. I use it today at $9,000 each, and my use is exactly the same. Every week I pay a bit, I earn a bit. And when you earn and pay in the same week, the price fluctuation really doesn't matter much. And so for the long run, while a price spike will get a lot of newbies excited, that doesn't last. Because, this thing is still volatile, so it bounces up and it bounces down, and every time it goes up, everybody rushes in, and every time it goes down, everybody says, okay, it's dead, move on.
It's dead, move on.
And then we wait a couple of years, and they're back in the next round. That's not what this is about. This is about a system of money that is for all of humanity, that can be used anywhere by anyone without permission, that the government can't manipulate, that the banks can't manipulate, that they can't control, they can't shut down, they can't freeze, they can't seize, they can't censor, they can't surveil, they can't control. It is money as it should be, as it always was for thousands of years, when we had gold coins and cash that could be traded privately between individuals, recognized anywhere in the world, without restrictions, without controls, without fraud. And that's what it is. The internet requires a native currency that works for everyone on this planet. And it's time we built our own. And now we've built it. And it doesn't matter what they say.
I really haven't heard what you just said. It's the first time I've heard a proponent kind of just not go into the whole. You don't see this as an investment. You see this as a medium of exchange,
right?
As money always has been. This is not like, oh, buy this so you can make money. That's not what you're saying at all.
I don't see it as an investment. I think if people are investing in this, they should be very careful because it behaves in a very volatile manner because it's small. So, think of it like being in a zodiac bouncing up and down in the waves, right? That's Bitcoin. And then next to it, you've got this giant cruise ship, let's call it the Titanic, which is the US dollar. And it doesn't bounce around in the waves. It's very steady. It just sits there and slowly and steadily it moves closer and closer to the iceberg. Now, I can dodge and weave and get around the iceberg in my little Zodiac, but it's going to be a bumpy ride for a while. The bigger it gets, the more stable it gets. As an investment, I would use it in my investment portfolio the way I would use cayenne in my gumbo. A tiny bit makes it interesting. A lot makes it inedible.
Right.
Right?
Terrible.
And so that's the bottom line. Now, if you're looking at a long-term perspective, then in the longer scheme of things, Bitcoin has a very different behavior in terms of inflation than US dollars. And the real question shouldn't be, is it too risky to have all of my money in Bitcoin? But the equally interesting question is it risky to have all of my money in dollars? Is it risky to have all of my money in euro? And I would mix it up a bit. I think as a long-term investment for preserving value, it might end up being a good investment, but I don't know. I'm not an investment specialist. I'm a computer scientist. As a technology, I can tell you that internet money has happened. It was inevitable. It has happened, and it's not going to go away. In fact, what's going to happen is it's going to get more and more and more interesting until eventually the generation that was born in an era when Bitcoin always existed, was always part of their experience, will look back at a time when a dozen elderly white people decided what the interest rate would be for a continent of 380 million inhabitants and think that that is as ridiculous as powdered wigs. And they will think that a currency governed by transparent rules that operates on the internet is the most natural thing in the world. That's what's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Wow. Love it. Learn so much already. Andrea, so how can folks that are listening that wants to learn more, maybe wants to follow you and, get more information and support everything that you're doing, how can they find you? How can they be part of that?
So almost all of my work that I do is available ad-free, cost-free under open and open source licenses, under Creative Commons licenses. You can find me on the internet as Aantonop, Antonop, as I'm known. Antonop on Twitter. My website is antonop.com, and I'm Antonop on YouTube. I have written 5 books. I'm working on my 6th right now.
Wow,
three of them are technical college level textbooks for computer scientists. 3 of them, The Internet of Money, Volume 1, 2, and 3, are philosophical talks and seminars about why this stuff matters and what it means. Kind of what we were talking about today. And I also have more than 500 videos, including many educational videos and all of my seminars and talks on YouTube, of course, ad-free, completely free to watch.
Fantastic.
And I hope you enjoyed them.
I watched a few last night. What I was looking for, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I want to expose her to some of this. So we need the Andreas Bitcoin for Kids.
For kids session. Right. Get them into it early.
That's a fast track to get deplatformed from YouTube.
Oh man, YouTube. Yeah, Andrea. So you have this thing on your Twitter account, and we might have to send me this later on DM or something. You showing that you're following 0 users, but you say you have a list. Can I get that open source code on the side? Can we work on that?
Yeah, I mean, I could write up. Yeah, it's like 1 page of code, and it takes a lot of setup, and I don't have any documentation. I could write it up, but basically, I converted all of my followers to lists so I can manage them better and organize them by topic. And because if you follow a lot of people and you have a lot of followers, both your feed and your mentions are a complete jungle. And and both of them are influenced by the Twitter algorithm. Whereas by using lists, I choose what I want to read. And also I don't reveal to people if I'm following them or not, because I keep my list private, which removes some of the games about, you follow me, I don't.
Okay, right, yeah. All right. I'll send you a message on there, and then we see how we can work that out.
Yeah,
but Andreas, thank you so much for joining us. OC and I, we've been looking forward to this. OC is definitely bigger cryptocurrency guy, and he's been helping me. So, I did some investment when the whole thing went boom, and it was a bad idea, but listen to this, and I got a lot of guys have been asking me, hey, when you getting that guy Andreas on? So hopefully everybody that gets to listen to this learn a lot from me. I know I did, and we'll continue to learn from it. Thank you so much for coming by and talk to us.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Point Noted Podcast with Johnny B and Rashad B. Follow us on Twitter @PTNoted and Instagram @PointNoted. Hit the subscribe and follow button to follow us and check out more episodes of us talking a whole bunch of shit. You've been noted.